my YouTube friends! Today I'm going to show you how to create a burnt peanut style avatar just like this, and how you can change his clothes or have your audience change his clothes just like what you see here. The best part is what I'm going to show you today is not going to require you to have Lens Studio open or anything like that. We've got a lot to get to today, so you know what? Let's get to it! Now I don't want to spend a lot of time talking here because this is a very in-depth tutorial. It's going to show you exactly how to set up your initial avatar, whatever it happens to be, and how to actually animate it and get it into OBS. Then it's going to show you how to actually dress that thing and make it have different outfits, and then how you can have your audience pick whatever outfit they want or whatever based on anything you want, whether it's channel points or possibly donations. But the thing is this is a complicated process. Once you figure it out, you're gonna just get it. But Blender is really complicated and Lens Studio is also quirky. So you're gonna wanna follow along, pick an avatar and go ahead and do this step by step. It's the easiest way to learn. You're gonna be a lot happier with the results at the end. This time around, we're gonna choose a different model. We're gonna go with this butternut squash. Of course, we're here on Sketchfab, and here is the model. We'll go ahead and click download 3D model, and it says, of course, this model is free and must be credited. So there are a couple of different versions that we can download. We're gonna go ahead and just use the OBJ format, click download, and boom. Now we've got our butternut squash ready to be modified so we can create our character from it. The next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and open Blender, and we will just remove that. Probably want to go ahead and select our cube and just delete it. Then we'll go up to File and we'll go to Import, and we're going to go to our Wavefront OBJ, and there we have our OBJ right there. So now we can just go to that folder and import, and then we got to zoom in. But the first thing we want to do is go ahead and change our viewport shading. We can see that all of the stuff shows up. It looks pretty good. And now this gives us a better idea of where we want our view to come from. And I kind of think this is the direction that we want to go, right here. All right, so we have two things down here. One is our origin, which is a little dot, and the other is our cursor. We can move our cursor anywhere just by selecting cursor here and moving it, and now you can see that little dot. But we want our dot to be more in the center of our object. So what I'm going to do is right-click and go to Set Origin, and then we're going to send it to the center mass of the volume or the surface. In this case, I'm going to select volume. To be honest with you, it pretty much moves it to the same place either way on this particular model. And now we can see our origin is set to the center of our model. And then we're going to right click and we're going to snap the cursor to the active. The next thing that I want to do is go ahead and scale this object. So I'm going to click the S key and I'm just going to scale this up. And there we go. That looks pretty good. Then we're going to do a Shift A and I'm going to add an armature. We can't see the armature, so I'm going to go over here and select the running man and then viewport display and in front, and there we go. So now I can scale the armature up like that, and then I just want to make sure that it's in the center, right? We want it to be in the center of our object. Then you just want to make sure that your bone is selected, and we want to go into edit mode, and we're just going to select the bottom ball right here, and we're going to go E, and then we're going to hit the Z key. Z would be right, straight up and down. And we're just going to extend this down to the bottom of our model and click. And now when we go around, it should be in the center. All right, so we want to go back up here, go back into object mode. Then we want to select our model and then hold down the Shift key and select our bones. Then we want to hit Control P and we want to armature deform with automatic weights. And you want to select everything, and then we're going to go Control A, and we want to go all transforms to apply all of our transforms. So now we could go up here and select pose mode. And if we hold the Shift key and use the center mouse thing, we can move this around. Once we get it where we want it, we can select our bone and hit the R button, and it allows us to rotate this on whatever axis we want. But you can see that our bones are working as intended. The last thing I'm going to really do here is go up and we're going to select camera and just delete. We're going to select the light and just delete. We don't need any of that stuff coming in. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to File and we're going to export. And this time we're going to do it in a GLB format. So we're just going to take this one right here and we're going to select where we want it to go, and we'll just call it what we want, and there we go. One last thing that you're going to want to do, you can see up here it says unsaved, which means all the work that we just did, sure, we saved it out in a different format, but we're going to want to come back to this original format so that we can add our outfits and that sort of stuff. And it's a heck of a lot easier to work with this if we just go ahead and save this file so we can find it later. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and just do the same thing, but in the standard Blender format. So we're going to go back to that directory, and we're just going to save this as squash. So we can come back to this and we can add our clothing and different outfits and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to save this as a Blender file, and boom. Let's get it in Lens Studio. All right, here we are in our Lens Studio, and all I'm going to do is go ahead and just drag our model on here, GLB, and just drag it in here. And then we just need to click accept. And we can select our squash here, and we want to make sure that it's compressed, because if we go up here to file and we go to project settings, we can take a look at our lens size, and it can't be any more than 8 megabytes. Now mine is super tiny, but yours might be bigger, and we don't want it to be. So we're going to try to optimize that as best we can. So we can select squash, and we can go into here, and instead of none, we can select Draco and enable it. And then if we go back up into our project settings, you can see it shrank a little. If it's bigger, it's going to shrink to almost half the size. So that's how you can get it down under the 8 meg. There are other tricks, but that one is going to be good enough for us here. So now we're going to go up here, we're going to click the plus, and we're going to go to face, and we're going to add a head binding. And we can just delete this face occluder, and all we need to do now is go into our squash and just drag it up here into our head binding. And now what we're going to want to do is just change our scale of our squash so it's not taking up the entire screen. So we want to first link these because we want the scale of the entire model to go down, and just try some numbers. And that probably is going to do okay. Might be able to go to 15, and then we're going to zoom in here, and we're going to select this right here, and I'm going to move this down, and I think I'm going to go with 20, and we're going to rotate this, and I'm going to move this down and just set it up so our face is kind of extruding out the front there, and there we go. I think we're in pretty good shape there. So the next thing I'm going to do is come up here and click the plus, and I'm going to go to face, and we want to do a face inset, and I'm just going to take this face inset and I'm going to duplicate it 2 more times, and then I'm just going to rename this. This is going to be mouth, this will be right eye, and this will be left eye, and then we can just come into each one and change where it's looking. So this one's looking at the mouth, but it's supposed to be the right eye, so we'll change it. And this one says mouth, but it's supposed to be the left eye, and we'll change that. And then we want to go up to texture, and we want to just change this to device camera texture, and then bada bing, and we click OK. We can see all our stuff is right here. It's just on top of one another. So we're going to take our right eye and just move it into the position where our right eye should be. And we can move everything around if we want the face to stick out more or whatever we want. Let's go ahead and move our mouth down. And you just select these and you position them where you want them to be. And then what you want to do is kind of just turn to the side. Just make sure that you kind of see them outside of your mesh. And there we go. So now we've got our face all squared away. The next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and move our mouth and our eye and everything. We're going to move this so that it's to our head bone. And this is going to move the face, but that's all right because we're going to be able to fix that. So boom, we moved it to our bone. And now we want to just go ahead and move it back into the position that we just kind of set up. And you can do that with all of them selected. And there we go. So now our face is in place. All we need to do is add a little bit of movement. And to do that, we're going to add a script. So we're going to come down here, click on the plus, and we are going to go to scripting, and we're going to do a JavaScript. And we're going to call this smooth, and then we're going to just double click on it. I put the script that you're going to need in the description down below, so just go ahead and paste it in here. Then what you want to do is come up here and click this X, and then click save. And now if we double click it again, we can see it's populated. So that's good. You can just delete this, go back into our scene here. And what we're gonna do is select our body bone, which is this bone 001 right here. And we can either add a component and add that script, or we can just take it from here and drag it over. And there we go. And then we wanna just drop this down and we wanna select our head binding. Click OK. And then you can see it does some weird stuff. Don't worry too much about that just yet. We'll zoom out here and we just wanna make sure nothing gets weird, right? Nothing got weird here. We can go ahead and change the offset to fix this problem. And it's usually a negative number, but it could be different for you. So there we go, -15 maybe. And that looks about right. So you just want to kind of fix whatever happens. Sometimes everything will just totally skew and you've got to adjust your transform and your smooth transform. But in this case, it's pretty stable. It did what we wanted it to do. So all we have to do now is take this bone and move it out of our head binding. So we want to move it completely out of effects. We'll put it all the way down here and boom. So now we should be able to get movement. What I want to do first is go up here into our camera object and we're going to change our background up. So you see the clear color option and we're going to select color right here. And then we're just going to change this so it's whatever background color you want. Boom. Now I can go up here and I can add my camera in here and boom. So if we go and we select our bone, and you can see the bone is still not out of our binding. It's still in here. So we want to move it totally out. We don't want it in lighting either. We just want it totally out. And there we go. And I can just move back to where I'm all in frame, where my camera is supposed to be. And as you can see, we're all set. So this is set up in the most basic way for us to add clothing and hats and everything else to it. And you can see that it did change right here, some of this. So what I'm just gonna do is grab this and move it up. So it's right there, and there we go. So sometimes that's gonna happen when you move the bone out. You can just readjust it, move it around, make it look like what you want it to look. Now everything that I'm showing you here can be tweaked. And if you want to have a really cool looking character, this is the time when you want to make it look exactly how you want to make it look. You want to make it emote like you want it to look. You want to make the head turn like you want it to turn. All of those things have to be done in this stage right here so that when we go and mess around with it later and add clothing and stuff, all of the face things and everything are going to stay the same. So just keep that in mind. There is one other thing. If we go into our bone here, we can adjust our speed. And this is a relatively slow speed. So if we were to go something like 1, you could see it moves a lot faster. So this all adjusts based on what you want. Now you might also wonder why my eyes and my mouth look so blurry. That's the camera that I'm using. The camera that I'm using is focused much farther back than where I'm sitting right now. And that's mostly because I'm just showing you how to do this. I don't have everything set up to make it look perfect. If this is something that you're going to be doing on a regular basis, you're going to want to set your camera up so that your eyes are perfect, so that you're getting as clear an image as you want. So the first thing I want to do is I want to lock this in, so that we can modify this later with different models that have different clothing and everything else. I'm gonna go up here, I'm gonna go to File, and I'm gonna save, and I'm just gonna go ahead and find the directory where I want my stuff to go. I'm just gonna set up a directory where I can easily find this later. I'm gonna click Save. We're gonna call this Squash. And I'm just gonna click Save. And there we go. So now this model is locked in. I can use it anytime I want. Now we want to go ahead and publish this so that we can use it in OBS. So I'm going to click Publish, and we can name our lens. Let's call them the Squash Original. And you can see that once we have everything all fixed up, we're still way under 8 megabytes. And we want to add a lens preview. And so we can just do that and save the changes. And we can do this and just select any one of these. And that way we know what we're dealing with here. Now, I don't have a Lens Studio account set up, so we're going to set one up. We're going to go with Publish. It's going to ask us to log in. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a sign up. All right, we're going to create a new lens folder, and then we're just going to go ahead and select our lens folder, and we're going to submit our lens, and we're going to go publish, and I'm going to select hidden, and I'm going to go ahead and accept the terms, and I'm going to select publish. So we want to go to hosted web AR lenses. We want to generate a web AR lens, and we're going to go into our squash folder, and we want this one, but we can't yet publish it because it's processing. So we're going to come back when this is done processing, and I'll show you the rest of the process. All right, so as you can see now this lens is published, so I'm going to go over here to hosted web AR lenses, and we're going to generate a web AR lens. We're going to go in here and we're going to generate that one. And boom, now we've got this little URL. And we can take this URL and use it directly in OBS. I'll show you how to do that at the end, because now we're going to go ahead and create a model with some clothes. So I went back to Sketchfab and downloaded a couple of accoutrements for our butternut squash, an army helmet and a jacket. Same process. I'm going to go ahead and open up my blender, and we're going to load up our squash, and I'm going to go up to file, import, and it's an FBX, and so now I just have to find the actual file, and this helmet right here, import, and you can see it's big. First thing I want to do is kind of join all these together. You can see it's a bunch of different parts, so I'm just going to right click and say join, rename it, and all right. So we're going to click S to scale, and we're just gonna shrink it down, and then we can click G and Z to grab it and move it on the Z axis. We'll zoom in here, and let's go ahead and grab it and just move it over a little bit, and we'll click S and scale it. So basically clicking G grabs it, and you can move it anywhere in 360, but you can add a modifier to that, Z, Y, or X, to move it on those axes. And there we go. We've got our helmet on our character. It's not connected yet, but we'll get to that in a moment. I'm gonna go ahead and go file, and then we're gonna go import, and it's gonna be another FBX, and I'm gonna import our coat, and we can just G and Z, pull it down, and we're gonna click R and Z to rotate it, turn it around there, and then I'm gonna click S to scale it, R to rotate it a little bit, stand it straight up, and then I'm gonna click G and then Z to move it or grab it on the Z axis. And I'm just gonna click G here and move it, and we'll scale it some more. And then G and then Z to move it down, and we'll just click G and move it over in here. Let's spin it around and see how close we're getting. We're getting pretty close. We might be scaled up a little too big. So I'm gonna click S and scale it down a little bit, and then G and just grab it and kind of move it right where I want it. And I think that actually looks pretty good. So the next thing that I'm gonna do is select our coat and our helmet, and then I'm gonna go ahead and control and select our butternut squash. I'm gonna right click, and I'm gonna go ahead and join these items. So now it's put everything into the same item. So now if I click G, you can see it's gonna grab everything. Go ahead and select our butternut squash and go down here into the vertex groups, and we'll just remove the bone vertex groups that were there. And we're gonna have to make one slight modification to our armature, because if you notice, if I zoom out, there is a lot of coat, but there's not a lot of bone. So it has real difficult time associating that bone with the coat, and it will make it not want to pair up and do our weights. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and select our armature, and we're gonna go into edit mode, select this bottom point right here on this bone, and I'm going to click G to grab it, and then Z, so it's on the Z axis, and we're just gonna stretch it down so it builds up more of the coat. It'll give us a better shot at the weights being proper for what we're trying to do. So now we're good. We can go out of edit mode, back into object mode, and now we're just gonna pair this to the whole thing the same way that we did it when it was just our little butternut squash. So we're gonna select our coat, and then we're going to select our armature, and we're gonna hit Control P, and we're going to armature deform with automatic weights. And it's gonna take a second because this is a bigger deal going on here, but as long as you don't get a little error down here, that means extending our bone actually worked. And so now all we have to do is go into pose mode, and we could select our little hat here and click R, and it'll move. Now you'll notice, and you might have this problem, you'll notice that not everything paired properly, or it's not weighted properly. For some reason, it did not weight up our headband with the rest of the helmet. So we're gonna have to fix that. In order to do that, we're gonna go out of post mode into object mode, and we're going to select our object. We're gonna drop this down, and we're gonna select weight paint. And you can see that that is the weights that are painted for our second bone, our body bone. And we wanna go into our head bone, and once we do that, you can see it didn't paint any weight at all on that helmet. So what we're gonna do is paint it up. And this is not difficult. I'm gonna go ahead and take my armature here and click the eyeball so it goes away. And we've got a weight of 1 and a strength of 1, and this is the size. And so we can easily paint this until it gets red. And you have to paint all the way around. And you can see that it did try to paint this strap over here on this side, but it just didn't paint it very much. So we can adjust the size down and then paint the strap. And for some reason, you could see how that doesn't actually paint if you don't have the size up high enough. And the problem with putting the size up too high is then, of course, it paints behind it, which is annoying. But in this case, it doesn't really affect it all that much. It's nothing to be super worried about. And if you make a mistake, you can just undo it. And there we go. So we've got our weights painted for our helmet. Looks pretty good. We're gonna go back to object mode, and then we're gonna make our armature visible again. We'll select it, we'll go to object mode and pose mode, and we can grab it and rotate it, and now you can see the whole of our object is moving. And if we click the rotate button and then click rotate again, you can see he'll turn his head and do all that fun stuff too. So I'm gonna go to pose, I'm gonna go to transform, and we're going to clear all the transforms so it's back to where it's supposed to be. And we're going to save this out by going File and then Export. And we're going to export this GLB file again. So this time we're going to call it the Squash Soldier. And there we go. Now all we have to do is put it in lens format. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and open Lens Studio. And then I'm going to go into File. And we're going to go to Recent Projects. We're going to open our Squash project. And there he is. We're going to basically reuse that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and find our Squash Soldier. And I'm just going to drag him in here. And click Accept. And the first thing we're going to want to do for sure is go to our compression and set it to Draco and enable it, because if we go into project settings, you're going to see that this is, you know, bigger. So now it's all set, and what I'm going to do is just kind of recreate what we have here, and I'm going to do that by right clicking here, and we're going to go to unpack for editing. Now we've got our Squash Soldier right here, and I'm just going to drag him right up under head binding. So you could see that he's right here and our squash is right here. So what we could do is just kind of mimic the settings. So we've got our squash is -17 and a scale of 15, and so we can go -17 and a scale lock 15, and boom. So we're really already pretty close to where we want to be. For some reason we picked up this neutral bone here. I'm going to go ahead and delete that, and you can see we're already kind of looking sort of normal. Just need a little bit more work. So we've got our bone with our mouth and stuff, so we're going to just collect those and we're going to move those down into this bone right here, and then we're going to go to this one and we're going to drag our script on there just like before, and we know that that other one is here, so we can go and check the settings, and -23 -9, so we go here, -23 -9. We'll choose our object, and that will be the head binding. Click OK, and the offset was -10 down here, so we'll go -10 here. We're just kind of trying to mimic the settings, and then I'm just going to drag this out in there, and so we're starting to look pretty good. If we turn off our old squash, you could see what we got, right? So there we go. We've got our new outfit, and it looks a little big. It could definitely be scaled. You're going to get a lot more mileage out of stuff that's scaled properly and bespoke for your character. I just grabbed any old jacket and any old hat and made it work for me. And you know, you can do that, but you want to spend the time to actually make it exactly what you want. All we really need to do is publish this. So what I'm going to do is go up here, and I'm going to take this one and I'm just going to delete it. So now we just have our soldier in there. It's perfect. It's exactly what we want. And we don't need both of the bones, so we're going to delete this bone. We can go into our project settings, and we just want to take a look, and you can see that we are now over, which sucks. So how do we fix this? Well, we're going to come down here into our textures, and we're going to select these textures, and we're going to go and we're going to adjust them by size, and we're going to go low. And right here, size, low. And we'll just go through them one by one. Size, low. Some of these are relatively big, and so what this will do is shrink those up so they aren't so big. And now if we go up to our project settings, you can see we're well under our 8 gigs. And you might also notice this looks weird. This doesn't look right. Well, we can fix that if that bothers you. You can grab this bone down here. There we go. Looking better. And you can adjust this, do whatever do whatever feels good for you. But it's really not even necessary, to be honest. As long as it functions properly, that's all we really care about. When we're adding outfits to these guys, we're just going to come back to the standard stock one, and we're going to kind of do the same process as we just did. So now what do we want to do? Well, let's go ahead and first, I'm going to go up to File, and I'm going to save this as, and this is going to be Squash Combat. And then save it, and it's going to save it to a different path, but that's fine. And we're going to go to Publish, and we're going to name it Squash Combat, and we're going to Publish, and then just select our location, our folder, and we're going to submit the lens, and Publish, Hidden, Publish. And we can go to my lenses, and we can see we got our Squash Original and our Squash Combat lens, and it's processing. So as soon as it's finished processing, I'm going to show you how to put these in OBS, and how to even have your audience select them if they want. Alright, so Squash Combat is published. So let's go into our hosted AR lenses and generate a web AR lens. And we want to publish our Squash Combat, and there we go. So how do we use these? Well, we're going to open up OBS, and I'm going to create a new directory, and we're going to call this one Squash, and click OK. This is going to be a nested scene, just so you know. So if you never really knew how to use nested scenes, now you're gonna know. I'm gonna actually rename this, and I'll put an NS in front of it. Makes it easy to identify the fact that it's a nested scene. Then we're gonna click the plus, and we're gonna go to Browser, and we're gonna call this Squash, and click OK. And then I'm gonna just make this the size of my screen. And then what I'm gonna do is go back in here, and we're gonna copy our Squash Original. We're gonna go in here, we're gonna paste that, and then all we have to do is click OK. And you kind of notice that it's not doing anything. And that's because it doesn't actually have access to your camera. So you see, if I put it in here, boom, you can see that it works. We need to add something into our OBS when we open it up in order for it to access the camera. All we need to do to fix it is to go to our OBS shortcut. We're going to right click, go to Properties, and at the end of this, we just want to add a space, and there is a group of text I put in the description. You just want to paste it in here. And this just basically tricks it into allowing that camera to work. Is this some sort of security risk? Maybe, don't know. But then again, we all carry around cell phones. Okay, so once you add that in and you bring it up, this is what you're going to get. You have to click Interact. It'll bring this up, and then you can click I agree, and then boom. So the first thing I'm going to do is modify this. I'm going to shrink it down, and I'm going to hit the Alt key, and we're just going to cut out all the borders that we don't need. And then I'm going to go ahead and right click and go to Filters, and we're going to go to our Effect Filters, and we are going to go ahead and chroma this out. So chroma key, okay, and boom. Now we're all set. So we could just place our little guy wherever we want on our scene. And we can do the exact same thing. We'll just click the plus, and we're gonna go into our browser source again, and we'll call this Squash Combat. Click OK. Same thing, and we just have to get our URL, paste it right in here. Click OK, and there we go. So now we're gonna go ahead and select this, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna crop out all of the edge stuff. Right click, go into Filters, add our chroma key, and then we're just going to shrink them down to the same size as the other dude. There we go. Now we can turn both of these on or off. Generally speaking, that's how you're going to control your squashes. So now all we have to do is add these to a scene. So we go over here to our game scene, we click the plus, and we're going to add a scene. And the scene we're going to be adding is our NS Squash scene. So we're going to add an existing NS Squash, click OK, and boom, hey, we're here. And we can switch back and forth on which of these is active very easily. I'll show you how to do that in a second, but we can add it to this scene as well. All we have to do is go here and click Scenes, and we're going to add our NS Squash scene. And that way your audience is going to be able to change your appearances and your outfits no matter which scene you're on. So whether you're in the game scene or the talking scene, when they actually do donations or whatever to change your outfits, they will automatically change in each scene that you have. And to do that, we're going to use Streamerbot. Now we're going to open up our Streamerbot here, and you want to make sure that you are connected to OBS Studio for sure, and you know, whatever platform, whether it's Twitch or YouTube or whatever you want to be connected to. Now, if we go in here, you can see that you can just add in, and then all you have to do is right click and go to connect or disconnect. And you want to make sure that it is on the physical current scene that you're using. And if I go over here, you can see we are on the talking scene. So we're all connected up, and I've got more comprehensive videos on how to use Streamerbot. I'm just going to show you how to create actions that will change your clothing for your little guy. So we're going to go ahead and add, and we're going to call this clothing change, and we could put this in the character group, and the cue's default, nothing else needs to be changed. We're going to go down here, we're going to add, and we're going to go to OBS Studio, and we're going to go to sources and a source visibility state, and our connection is this one right here. We want to go to the NS squash scene, of course, and we want our source to become the squash combat source, and we want to make it visible, which makes perfect sense. And we can test that theory. If we just click test, we'll go over here into OBS, and you can see that he's in there, but our other guy is sitting in front of it still. So what we have to do is turn off that other guy. Next, I'm going to go and duplicate this by right clicking and going to duplicate sub action. And I'm going to double click, and we're going to change our source from combat squash to squash, and we're going to make him hidden, and then click OK. So now what we have is something that's going to turn on our combat squash and turn off our regular squash. So let's create a trigger that is going to trigger that event. We're going to right click here, we're going to go to add, and I'm going to go down here to YouTube and chat, and I'm just going to select super chats. Someone can put a super chat in to change us into combat mode, and the minimum here is $0, maximum dollars, maybe $5, and then you could set up outfits for different denominations of super chat if you wanted to. You could also set up a channel point program. This works great on Twitch because it already exists, but you can set one up on YouTube. I did a video about it a long time ago. I'll put a link to it at the end of this video. Let's go ahead and make this a little smaller, and all we have to do is right click on here, and we can test the trigger, and boom, you can see it changes us over into combat mode, right? So let's go back in here, we'll switch us back, and what we want to do is maybe we want to change over for only a certain period of time and then have it change back. We're going to go down here, we're going to right click, and we're going to go to core, and we're going to add a delay. Let's do 3000 milliseconds just for the sake of this particular demonstration. Obviously for your regular stream you'd have it a lot longer than that. Then what I'm going to do is just duplicate this sub action and duplicate this sub action and switch them up. We want our squash combat one to be down below. There we go. And then what we're going to do is just switch the visibilities. We want to make this one visible, and we want to make this one hidden. So now it's going to turn on our combat squash, turn off our regular squash. Then it's going to wait for 300 milliseconds. Then it's going to turn on our regular squash and turn off our combat squash. So let's go ahead and minimize this a little bit. Let's go into the game mode here so you can see that it works no matter what scene you're on, because we are using that nested scene. We're going to right click on here, and we're going to test the trigger, and boom, we go to combat mode. We're all ready for combat, and then it switches it back. And it's that simple to set up and create outfits, and then use those outfits in your stream for all kind of different opportunities and events. Now that you know what the process is, I just want to take a second to let you know. Spend time on this. Follow through and use this video as a reference and come back to it if you need to, but take the time to make the clothes fit the way that you want them to fit, to make the avatar exactly what you want it to be, because all of those things are really important. You want your avatar to be as expressive as you possibly can, so that when you add that personality to it, it's something that people are going to find fun. I just rushed through creating the avatar because I'm trying to show you how to do it. Now that you know how to do it, you can create your own art with your own avatar, and it can be absolutely fantastic and have its own personality. That's what makes it fun, and that's what's going to make your audience excited to come and watch you stream. Is there something that you didn't understand about what I went through today? Let me know about it down in the comments, and I'll try to answer your questions. And here at the end, I'm going to put up two different videos. One of them is for channel points if you have a YouTube channel. The other one is the first video I did on the burnt peanut, and some of the things have changed. some of them haven't. But if you can't figure it out this way, maybe that way will work for you. So that's going to be right here too. And if you're always looking for tools, tips, and tricks to help make you a better live streamer or YouTuber, subscribe to the channel. My name is Michael Feyrer Jr. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.